Hello, I'm Bruce Sawalski, author of Canadian Wilderness Survival and chief instructor of the Boreal Wilderness Institute. And what I'd like to do today is I'd like to talk about a critical item that we can't replicate easily in the wilderness, and that is the cooking pot. And why is the cooking pot critical item number 9 in my list of 15 critical items to be taken to the northern forests and mountains? The reason is it's hard to replicate. And you go, hard to replicate? What does that mean? Like, what do you care? Is it really a critical item or isn't it a critical item? That's the question. So, let's say you want to replicate it. Well, First Nations, they all replicated the pot. They found a way to boil water. So, in reality, I got to admit it's easy. It's easy for you to avoid a pot. Just don't worry about it. Don't carry it. All you have to do is simple. You just have to go into the forest and kill a moose. Kill the moose, take his stomach out, clean his stomach, build a tripod. You're a master woodsman. You'll have no problem doing that. Clean the moose stomach out, tie the bottom up, suspend it on the tripod, and then fill it with water. Next step, go out and find some really good rocks that don't bust up or blow up in a fire, right? You know, the kind you'd use if you wanted to build a sauna in the wilderness. Heat them till they're red hot. Dip them into another source of water to get rid of the outside ash and drop it inside the moose stomach. There it is. Done. Simplest way of all. There's other methods, but that's the simplest one we have in the forest. Or you can carry a cooking pot. That's why this thing's a critical item. And so you ask yourself, what do you need in a cooking pot and what do we want to carry? Well, if I carry a cooking pot that's too small, I'm going to have a problem, which is it's going to be hard to boil water, but much more importantly, it's going to be hard to melt snow. And in the Canadian wilderness, we melt snow 6 months of the year at least, right? And so we have to think about that. So there's two things you want to look for in a good cooking pot. Number one, it's got to be big and round enough to carry the amount of water you want to take. So really, a 2-liter pot would be good. Pot like this is a 4-liter pot. It's a little big, it's a little hard to carry, and it does have the virtue of being stainless steel. I like stainless steel way more than aluminum. What you'll notice here is this is actually a stewing pot, bought from a discount pot and pan store at the back. And all I did is made sure it was stainless steel. The actual bale, which is the second thing a good survival pot has to have, that's made by hand. So take a look at it there. A little close up, that's just bent wire with screws in each side of the pot drilled in with a washer on the inside. That's it. There's the thing on both sides, sits down and folds itself in quite neatly. So that is a good cooking pot. That meets the criteria of being critical item number 9. Now, I'm going to get a smaller pot, but one of the things I have to make sure is the diameter of the pot doesn't get too small. So in winter, I carry a cooking pot. Fall, spring, I generally carry one. Any long trips, I have one. I always have one with a bale. So if my stove runs out, I can always flip it over to the fire. Plus, I prefer to cook on a fire if I can. I like to avoid that. So, do we have any other choices? Well, we have things like stick burners and other stuff. We can talk about the Kelly kettle and other things like that. But let's just concentrate on a cooking pot or vessel. In that case, I can replicate it or change it, especially in summer, by throwing away my plastic bottles, which aren't good for the environment anyhow, and replacing them with single-walled stainless steel water bottles. And then what you do with the stainless steel water bottle, it's got to be single-walled. Double-walled means it's a thermos. It'll melt or burn on the fire. It won't work. Single-walled and stainless steel, just like this. I bought this at Canadian Tire. Yeah, no problem, $12 or so. Not expensive, really, really good. Now, originally, it had a top piece here that had a plastic wrap around. I cut that off and replaced it, and I'll give you a nice close-up, with wire. And I put the wire and rigged the wire on in advance with 2 rings. This way, this can come off. I can unclip that, and that cooking pot is now ready for me to rig a wire on and put it above the fire. and it has a big enough diameter there that I can actually boil water, and if I have to, melt snow. Now, it'll always be harder to melt snow in a small water bottle like this, but it will work. And because it will work, I'm way better off, because then I can use this as a vessel for boiling water and melting snow, meaning I'll survive comfortably in the Canadian wilderness. Now, the other style of bottle is this, which is a little smaller diameter there. If you take a look at that, I put a hose clamp on these, and this is a smaller bottle, about 750 milliliters. You can get bigger ones than that as well. They're actually easy to get. And again, all stainless steel. That's what's important. That's what we look at. Solid stainless steel. This container is a smaller lid, but it's not super small, so I can boil water with it, and I can still use it for melting snow, and it's pre-rigged and ready to go, and that's a huge advantage. So is this a critical item? Yes, it is. It's critical item number 9. And the reason it's number 9 is 1 to 8 are those things we carry with us all the time. 9 is the first of the 2 items that are hard to replicate. And yes, it's hard to replicate a cooking pot. And you can improvise this or that, but you're never going to have the same thing. And those individuals stranded in the wilderness with the ability to melt snow and boil water easily lived well. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this quick video on critical item number 9, the cooking pot and or vessel, and why it's a critical item. Please subscribe to my channel, come out and take courses, buy my book, Canadian Wilderness Survival, and I hope you enjoyed this video and you learned a lot.